Hi guys, ending off my dad. Hope you're well. Still freezing, it's about 2 degrees here in Chesterfield in the UK, but spring is showing signs that it's just around the corner. So, little short game video today. I've probably not practiced my short game for a good few months with the cold, wet conditions here in the UK, but I did take my car in for an MOT a couple of weeks ago. Luckily that passed, but it did give me an idea to come and give my short game a little MOT. So if you've been watching my videos over the past year, 2 years, you'll know that I took on board a lot of the Dan Grieve short game. Before this, a couple of years ago, I was more of a Phil Mickelson hinge and hold. But after reading this, watching his videos, it has definitely transformed my golfing short game IQ. I've passed it on to quite a few people locally as well. So as I said, this video is a little short game MOT for myself, which might help you also. So I'm going to go through my basic chip and run, soft landing chip, bit of a flop shot. So I'll see on myself how it's feeling. I'll show the little checkpoints what I check in terms of my setup. As Dan says, everyone can have a world-class setup, then it's just down to practice. So let's get to it, guys. Short game MOT. Hopefully I'll pass. All right, guys, so to do this test, I've come down to Tapton. I'm here on the academy course. Obviously, we're still in winter conditions. So with the short game, my lie would dictate which different shots, but this is about just dialing in the techniques for the 3 basic shots. So the first test is the basic chip and run. So I'm just going to hit a couple and then we'll go through the diagnostics and a little bit what I've learned from TPI as well over the past 2-3 months in terms of the pelvis, which has definitely helped a feel of mine also. So chip and run, just going to hit a couple, got my 54 degree. First one nice and clipped. So when I start these sessions, I'm just feeling how my ball contact is, controlling low point. They're coming out really nice. Obviously the basic chip and run probably equates, so it could or it should do around 90% of the shots out there. I'll go through in a second how I control distance with the different clubs, which I've covered before. But let's just clip another one and then I'm going to go through the set points. But in terms of feels already, it's feeling that my setup, I'll have a proper look when I get home on camera. Normally I would film this as I'm going along and I'll check my camera as I go, but I'm happy with the results so far. I'm happy with the low point control. So that golfing IQ, once it's in there, it's hopefully sitting in there. So already I'm only 3 balls in here, but I'm really happy with how that feels, really happy with that contact. So let me go through those balls and I go through the checkpoint in terms of what I can feel already is what I'm in my setup, and we'll go through that in a second, guys. Right, guys, so even though that was only 3 shots hit in terms of a practice session, I'd be really happy with that in terms of how it feels. Again, once I've learned that golfing IQ and setup, it really does feel that I can just go back to basics, use different lofts to then control distances, which will go. But the setup, that is definitely ingrained and really helping. So these are the checkpoints, what I go through in terms when I'm doing my basic chip and run. Again, I've covered it in other videos. So we could start with down the line. So in terms of setup, I'm going to be a little bit closer to the ball. The handle's a little bit higher. I actually flare my left foot open. And like with a lot of the chipping, and with the pressure, I'm building a pivot point. If I'm drawing an imaginary line from the inside my foot here, up to here, that is my pivot point. 78% of my weight stays there, and I'm building my pivot around there. Again, in terms of setup, handle's a little bit higher. What I'm looking for, and that's what I was feeling on those 2-3 shots, is I have more of a flat wrist. So in terms of a line coming down, I've got more of a flat wrist, not more cupping. Cupping is when I move to the next release, when I'm doing my more soft landing. So we build it from here. Feet, club width apart, quite close. So 70% on the left, flare the left foot, flatter left wrist. And then one of the keys on here is that the shoulder tilt for me is level with the ground. And there's a lot of people I see where they have too much tilt at address. Problem with that is when we get here, that's when we struggle to control low point. and we're coming in before the ball. Really hard to control that low point and control strike. So then once we've got that set up, so we've got the pressure, we've got the flat wrist, I've got my shoulders aligned to the slope. There's two keys and one that I've just learned recently. So we pivot them around, pressure down there, the pivot goes, and then all I'm thinking then is that my tricep here stays attached to my chest, which keeps me connected, and then the chest and the tricep to the chest. Turn to target. So Dan Grieve is the release one. I just call it, I have the three releases. So I call these the left hip release, the belt buckle release, and my right hip. So exactly the same, but we're just using different parts of the bounce. But that's just how I tell my brain. So I know when I'm in my shot, I'm just thinking left hip release, and after impact, this is where the club is feeling. So for my left hip release, which is the basic chip and run, just past impact, that's pointing at my left hip. If I were doing the more softer landing, which we'll do in a minute, so the belt buckle release, that through impact, that is pointing at the belt buckle. So we've got the setup. I know I'm going to do my left hip release. I'm going to keep my tricep connected to my chest. This last point, which has really helped, and start with the leg drive. A lot of people with their pelvis, as they're going down, their actually pelvis is moving down. Actually, it was measured. I watched a couple of videos on TPI where they just measure everything. So the best chippers in the world, if we imagine the pelvis, imagine the dot in the middle of the pelvis, the center of mass gravity, that actually in chipping never goes down. So that's what I'm actually feeling, a little dot, the grape in the middle here. And then as I'm going chipping, this does never go down. It actually, in fact, so I keep it here, keep the pelvis, and then on the way through, center of mass actually moves slightly up. So if you're one who's going digging, there's a couple of reasons. One, you might be doing too leg driving, too much hand driving, or if the pelvis is dropping, we're losing that pelvis. So for me, I just feel that the center of mass in the pelvis, keep it, and then from here, as I'm working, the pelvis actually moves up slightly, and that's really helping with the shallowing and the strike. So all those in place. Set up, pivot point, flat lead wrist, shoulder level, tricep, chest, left hip release, and then my pelvis is just going to work on the up. Just nice clip, control that low point. So it seems a lot to take in, but if we just tick those off, the more we practice it, they'll just become ingrained, and we're only working on one thing at a time. So I know now that my setup, I'm really happy in terms of everything set up. If I get a little bit disconnected, the feeling I go to is my tricep to my chest. Once that feels okay, I can forget everything, and then it's more, I feel the center of mass in the pelvis. Make sure that is not going down. If I start fatting a couple, they're the things I'll be checking. Leg drive, am I getting handsy, hand driving, which is when disconnected. That's where the tricep to the chest stops the hand drive so much. So basic chip and run. Pitch a half. Nearly going. So basic chip and run. I think I passed that on the MOT, guys. Right guys, so the second part of the basic chip and run for the MOT test is just with control and distance. So again, I said in previous videos, how I control the distance is with my 54 degree, especially in summer conditions. Winter conditions, I need a bit more ball speed to go. But for summer conditions especially, I would use my 54 degree. So I would be picturing this, I'm picturing halfway, roll out a half. That is my gap wedge. Then we'll drop down to my 9 iron for a third to roll out 2/3. And then I drop to the 7 iron if I want to land a quarter. Roll out 3/4. I'm quite a visual, use my imagination quite a lot, so I can picture that. Bit of my maths comes in, so I can picture in my head where a quarter is, rolls out 3/4. But we just use the basic technique, same tempo, nothing changes, it's just the loft on the club. So the tempo I'm going at the ball, that's all the same rhythm, so we can control the launch angles, the speed, what's coming off at the club. And that's how we can start to dial in. So again, this is winter conditions, winter greens, but this is how I would go, especially in the summer. So set up like we've just been doing. Everything we've just spoke to. So I'm picturing halfway, roll out a half. So there's worked out great for distance. Very slightly diggy on there, which means I've just moved. My legs have gone there, but that's very slightly. And also I do have a little tuff behind, but I'd like to come a little bit shallower than that normally. So here we've got a 9 iron. So as I said, I'm looking a third to roll out 2/3. So picture a third just in front, same tempo, same setup, flat left wrist. That's exactly where I wanted it to land. Don't go in. Dan Grieve does this as well, definitely works. Right guys, so let's move to 7 iron. So this again, like I said, it would look to land a quarter, roll out 3/4. So that would be my little fail, pitched that way too far. This is my landing zone. I've landed here, so it has landed a quarter, rolled out 3/4, landing zone, no good. So let's just give that one another little go. Again, not done this for a few months, so just dialing those feels in. Got a little bit too aggressive on that one. I felt accelerated through that ball, which I don't want to. Keep the same tempo. There we go. Second time, really nice tempo, really focused on my landing spot, the feel. So not bad, only one bad shot out of there, but again, the next shot with the IQ, I could dial it straight back in. So chip and run, easy to control distance, guys. Definitely passed all aspects on that chip and run, right onto the belt buckle release and the soft landing chip. Right, not too bad. Right guys, so the second one is a soft landing chip. So this is where I use Dan's release too. I just call it the belt buckle release. Like I said, that's what it tells my brain. So as I come through, I just feel belt buckle release. So this one I don't use so much in the winter because normally they're more wetter lies, more compact lies. So I'm using more the 58 degrees, more of emergency shots, making sure I'm hit that ball. But I just want to come and I want to test. So all goes on the lie as well. This lie is not too bad. I'm actually downwind a little bit here, downslope, so I would use my 58, so I'm really going to test myself. And it's this shot as well that does test me in terms of more rhythm that I want to wait, but I'm going to hit a couple that I'll go through all my checkpoints and the feels, what I really have to feel. So let's just hit a couple. So we've got Duffy. Okay, I'm on a little downslope here. Right, so not the best there again. I've given myself a tough little situation here using the 54 as well. But I'll go get those balls and we'll chat where the feels, what I have to go through. Now I have to tweak to dial in and make sure I can pass this test. Right guys, so as I said, quite a bit to improve on those, but as I said, they're the first few shots I've had for a couple of months and it's on a downhill lie, downwind, but this is where I would check myself on camera and then I will go through my checkpoints on this soft landing chip. So in terms of a setup, when I'm going through my own little checkpoint, how I play it, obviously we've done the basic chip and run, 78% in the left foot. On this one, my weight is more evenly distributed and the center of mass where it was over the ball, stacked over the pivot point. I don't mind if it just drops back a little bit, but what I do have here, and I can control the elevation with this, this is where the cupping comes in. So where I had the flat left wrist on the basic chip and run, this is where I had a little bit of cupping, so the hands drop adds the cup, helps me keep the loft on. So with this belt buckle release, I'm really looking to use the mid part of the bounce, so when you've got a nice lie, it is more forgiving. Feel for me what I really have to fight for me. So I've got the setup, it's 2-3 club widths apart on the back heels, still flare the left foot, so set up more neutral, centre of mass on the ball, if not just a slightly behind it. But for me, as I take it back, this is where it's a feel for me. I know I've got the technique set up now, but it's a feel. From here, I don't want this to come fast, I want to start turning. The feel, like Dan explains also, it's almost a waiting time for gravity to take control. Really got to lessen my grip, make sure my grip's not too tight. I can get about 7, 8 out of 10 on the grip. I want this about a 3, 4. So it's really soft. And from here, it feels like this just drops. And then from here, as it comes through, then it picks up my chest, and the chest tricep connected goes as one. So it's not for me. Chest starts to go straight away. Getting the hand drive. This is what's key for me. That moment of feeling that the club just waits in space and time. So it's here. Let the club go. As it comes down, I just simply collect it. And with a belt buckle release, it's keeping the loft and the bounce on the club. Again, pelvis as well before. Make sure that's not dipping. I don't want leg drive. I don't want pelvis drop. Or I'm going to bottom out, fat that club, or hit into that ball then. So again, tough shot here. This is where I would get my 58 degree out, but if we can do this with a 54, gets even easier then when we want to add the 58 or 60 degree. So for me, I've got my setup now. I'm feeling better. I've got my more cup in the wrist. And for me, I've really got to wait and let that drop before we all work together. Right. There we go. Much happy with that. But that was much softer. It took a lot longer for the club to come down, then everything can go and go in sync. Little drill, little tip. I'm going to try this one with the thumbs off. Really reduce my grip pressure. I want this like a 3 out of 10. Just drop. Feel good. You feel the finish there. The loft's still on the club. I've used the bounce. It's not digging, not hand drivey. That's the best one. That was key. I see that on camera there, so I've literally waited to let that drop, and we've picked that up. Right. Happy with those. I'm actually going to get those. Might hit a couple with a 58 just to show how easy it is once we dial it in with that 54. So let's grab a 58 and we'll give those a little go. Right guys, so I've grabbed a 58 degree just to show it should be a lot easier with this from this downhill lie, short-sided, downwind. Although I've got a little bit of grasp band ball where I've given it, but it's the same. Nothing changes, just got to let the club drop. That's the feeling. Really forgiving this shot. Right guys, so one more, but really happy with that. And you can see why the 58 is a whole lot easier. That's the club I would use in match conditions. But for the MOT test, it's all about dialing in that technique. There you go. Soft landing chip. Happy with that, guys. Let's move on to the flop shot. Right guys, so the third part of the MOT is the release 3 of Dan, or the right hip release I call it. So this is more, I guess it's a flop shot really, but as we come in post impact, this butt of the club is pointing to my right hip. So this is where I'm really targeting the very back part of the bounce. Hardly use this shot to be fair, but it's a good one to practice. One to show your friends, but also can get us out of tough situations. Here, I wouldn't really need the shot. If the pin was just on the green, that's where I'd probably get this one out. So in terms of setup, I go a little bit wider. Again, centre of mass is just a bit behind the ball. The difference is when it goes to here, where we did the belt buckle release, this is where I'm really going to throw my right hand. So for left-hander, the opposite obviously, but for right hand, I'm going to throw my right hand. So that's the feeling as when I get to the top. It's not dropping there, I'm really throwing my bottom hand. So as it goes under, really keeping it bounce. You'll see that as I throw the right hand, that's throwing there. So I don't have to be with this feel super aggressive. I'm actually going to play this with my 54, make it a little bit harder. Obviously, could use a 58 lob wedge, but for technique, practice, I'm just going to make it as hard as I can. So I've got the cupping of the wrist, a little bit more cupping, set up as we've just said, but from the top, I'm going to throw my right hand hard. Let it come over through from there. More like a bunker shot, but throw that bottom hand. There you go. Nearly slam dunked it. And again, guys, that's with my 54. So I just like the feel of this shot. Really just throw that bottom hand at it. Drop the hands, cup the wrist. Throw that hand. So from that distance, who needs the lob wedge, guide? So I think I'm definitely 2 out of 2 on that one. After a few months off, that is definitely a pass. Let's grab the 58 cheating club. Really throw that right hand at it. With the setup, it's quite easy and it's one. Definitely could impress your mates with that one, guys. Right, guys, very quick practice session there, but I'm really happy in terms of how it feels and on my techniques. Like I said, my golfing IQ in terms of short game has definitely increased massively over the past 2 years, and the setups are really quite easy to learn, and once you learn them, ingrain it, then it's just all about getting the feel. So really happy with that. Definitely an MOT pass. But while we're here, I've not actually hit a bunker shot as well for probably a month or two. Got a nice freshly raked bunker. Let's hit a couple of bunker shots, see how those feels are. I might add this into the MOT test as well. Right, a couple of bunker shots, guys. Right, guys, so bunker shots. This is where I would use the 2 different releases. Obviously, over the winter, I've actually just done a video on wet compact sand. I would use more my left hip release, but here we've got some nice fresh sand in here, actually, nicely raked. So we could use my belt buckle release. So I'm going to give a couple of different options to go, just see how the feels are. Again, not really hit a bunker shot for a while, so I'm going to go belt buckle release first. So this is like your soft landing chip, really. So set up, ball position forward, flare my left foot, cup the wrist to get the loft on the club, and then from here again, I'm going to kick my right knee in, and then from here, as the hands drop, we're just going to pick up, and the club is going to finish belt buckle, chest, tricep, all connected. Right, let's give this a go. I've actually got my 58, so cheating a little bit. Really happy, plenty of sand under there, you can hear the kick. Again, let me do my 54. I keep saying it, but I do need some new wedges. I'm just going to change my setup a bit. Recently I've been a 50, 54, 58, but I do want to change to more a 55, 56, which is more then will be my go-to chip club. 60 degree then, hopefully go back in the bag. Definitely for emergencies only, so give myself a nice light for the release 2, for the belt buckle release. So I've got 54 now. To be fair, I play a lot of my bunker shots with this, if it's not the compact lie. So again, bunkers, no problem, guys. So let's give myself a compact lie. So a really compact lie. This is where I would switch to my 58 or 60. So let's check if I can remember my golfing IQ. So with this one, again, I'm using my left hip release. I don't want the club to release. The danger is then if I release this club, it hits that sand like I would do using the bounce. It's then going to kick up into the ball, get the dreaded thin. So for this one, I'm just going to change it in setup. So ball position, slightly back, my chest moves slightly ahead of the ball. This will allow me to hinge earlier, and from there it's more of a digging motion. It's a left hip release, so I'm not releasing the club. Still got my loft on, it should still come out spinny. That's where I was aiming. Oh, look at the spin on that. So I'm really happy that's the first shot, really nipped it, still comes out loaded with spin. Just need to aim a little bit better. Right, let's get that back. I'm going to aim properly. Right, so let's do that again. Let's make sure I'm aiming properly. That's more like it. Right, chest there, the ball. There we go. Helps if you line or aim properly. So compact sand, really not a problem. And it shows I'm not playing competitive golf really. Keeping that golf IQ, I keep saying it, but I can just now know I don't have to practice as much, but I can rely on these IQ skills, get the setup, use the bounce, which is dictated by the lie, then just implement the IQ. You can really play any short game shot I need. Golfing IQ, guys. Right. Should we do one more for show? So just to test me again, this one's uphill. So I'll test myself for a bit of fun here. Uphill lies, quite a bit of sand. This is where I'm actually going to use the right hip release. I'm really going to throw that hand at it. Hopefully I don't fin it and send this 100 yards there. So set up, shoulders with the slope. I'm just going to throw this right hand hard. Oh, super floppy. Easy, guys. Right, guys, hope you enjoyed that. Hope you found it useful. Anyway, if you did, if you want to hit that subscribe button, it's always a big help to the channel. Obviously, if you watch the channel, you know I always want to chase speed. Got back into the 130 mile an hour clubhead speed a couple of weeks ago. Got to keep ramping up that speed. But I do take pride, or I do love the short game also, but it just shows if we can improve that golf IQ, short game becomes a lot easier. And if you're like me, practice time is very limited with the full-time day job, family commitments. I know I can rely on this golf IQ. If I can just hit some bombs, keep it and play. I know my short game's not in a bad place. Definitely past the MOT, guys. The sun's starting to shine, so hopefully spring is just around the corner and we can take that short game out onto the proper course, guys. So I will speak to you very soon. MOT, pass, guys.